everyone, it's Darla Kirchner here, and I'm a brand designer and strategist, and I love to talk to other entrepreneurs that are on the rise, people that I admire, people that I've worked with, people that I collaborate with, and share their story about their journey on their entrepreneurial journey here. And so today I have Miss Iola Yhap. Iola is a copywriter, and she is a brand story coach. So Iola, thanks so much for joining us and being on the show today. I'm so glad that you're here, honey.
Thank you so much. I am excited to be here, of course, because you're amazing. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. The feeling is mutual for sure. So Iola and I have collaborated before on projects. We have worked together. We're actually in a mastermind together. And so I asked her if she would come on and share her journey, because she's kind of pivoted a little bit. And it's like, you know, in our journeys, we're always evolving and always growing. And I've seen her take some leaps in her career. And so I'm glad that she's here. Actually, I've interviewed Iola in the past. And so I'm glad that she could be here with me on Blab. And so we're so glad that you're here. So Iola, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Iola Yhap, and I basically help entrepreneurs and creatives to craft what I like to call their iconic brand story. Because if you think about it, every brand that you love, every brand that you spend money supporting, standing in line, waiting for it to come out the first day, going to Starbucks and all of these places, the reason you do that is because they all tell a story, whether you realize it or not. And that story is really etched into your subconscious, and that's why you keep supporting them over and over again. That's why people stand on the line, whether it's snowing, raining, whatever, to wait for the iPhone, right? Because of the story that Apple tells. Or that's why people will drive extra miles past coffee shops to go to Starbucks. So if all of those brands have stories, my question is, as an entrepreneur, why don't you have a story? And if you do your clients know what that story is? It's something that you need to stick to, and you need to tell it consistently so that people can identify you by that story. So in essence, I help people to craft that story, put it together, because we all have amazing stories to tell. But only one story makes sense to who your target audience or your ideal client is. So we figure out which story that is, or we take bits and pieces from your life and create a story from those bits and pieces. And then we can take that and put it into a speech. So for example, if you're having a live event or someone asks you to speak, or you're doing a webinar or something like that, you have your story structured within your speech. If you want to learn to sell from the stage, all of those things we do together. And of course, that's how I integrate that with copywriting. Because if you have a story, why is it not on your website, on your homepage, your about page, your sales page? Bits and pieces of those stories need to be weaved into your website. So that's how I combine the two together, which to me worked out perfectly, because I feel like I'm finally using my degree. I have a bachelor's degree in English with concentration in creative writing and rhetoric, and a master's in interpersonal communication. So it's like a really good fusion of bringing those two together to help you to essentially gain more confidence. If you're speaking and you're telling your story, and people know about your story, and you gain fans and all of those things, your confidence level goes up. You get more clients as a result, and of course, your business, so you'll get more cash. What else about me? I love to travel. And I love to eat.
It might be one of the reasons. There's a few reasons why we like each other, is because I love to travel and I love to eat. And I love talking about branding and story, and that's something that's so important. I think a lot of people they miss that. They miss trying to get their brand voice because they're so busy trying to get their business out there. So and so I think that I hope that they really take notes when our interview here, because I think there's a lot here that you're sharing that I know that you've helped me with my story, and it's important. It really ultimately is, when you're in business for yourself, you are your brand. So you have to, weave it in and out, like you said, throughout everything you do. So I'm going to start having a little question. If you guys have any questions for Miss Iola, then please post them here, and we will answer them at the end of the questions that I have here for her. And we're going to try to keep this around about an hour, so that, because we know that your time is very valuable and you've got a busy schedule too. So, why did you decide to become an entrepreneur? Because I know that's kind of how your story started with entrepreneurship. So tell us all why you became an entrepreneur.
Yes, honestly, since I was 14, I knew that the 9-to-5 wasn't for me. I lived in Guyana in South America, and then I moved to New York when I was 14, and I saw my father waking up at 4 a.m. every single day to go to work. And it just baffled me. I couldn't understand that. And I couldn't imagine myself doing something like that every single day until I'm 60, 70 years old. Like, to me, that was just prison. Anyway, I went to college and all of those things, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I couldn't stand in college, people ask me, oh, what's your major? Or what do you want to do when you graduate? I have no clue. But I knew I liked to write. I like to write, and I like to craft stories and so forth. So that's why I majored in English. But then I didn't know what to do with that. I'm thinking, I don't want to be a teacher. Or even if I'm a teacher, not in the traditional sense. I don't want to do that. So I graduated, and then I decided, well, I love to travel and I love to write. What else can I add to this English degree to make it do something that I actually enjoy doing? So that's when I decided to go to school for communications. And then I graduated, and it took me about 2 years to find a job because 1, the economy was horrible. 2, I had no clue what I wanted to do. 3, I knew I didn't want to be at anyone's job. So I was trying to figure things out. So I was selling insurance and natural candles, like anything you can think about. I was doing that, and even real estate. And then I ended up back at a 9-to-5. Since college, every single year I had a new job. So for the 7 years I was out of college, I had 7 jobs. And it wasn't because I got fired. I've never gotten fired or anything like that. I just got bored. After 2 months, I'm thinking, okay, this is it. I need something more. So the cycle kept repeating until 2014. I told myself I'm going to leave my job. And at the time I was working for the state of Connecticut, which that's the only job I stayed the longest. It was 1 year and 10 months. That's the longest I've ever stayed at any job. Yes. So I gave the job up to do coaching and help people start their business and so forth. And then I kind of carved this iconic brand story because I realized that that's something a lot of people are missing in their business. So that's how I got started.
Oh, it's a great story. And I think we all change and evolve. I think it's really interesting now that I wonder if you feel like you're kind of coming full circle with the fact that now that you're able to use your degree. Do you feel a little bit about that? Like that?
Yeah, before, sometimes I got upset or angry. I'm thinking, oh my God, I have all of these student loans and nothing to show for it. What am I using these degrees for? And when I was in Belgium last year, it finally made sense because my 3 months there gave me a lot of time to think and so forth. And that's when it's like I had an epiphany. Mm-hmm. So that's when this whole thing came together, and I've been absolutely enjoying doing that.
Yeah, it's amazing when you feel like when you're in it and you find your niche and you go, this is what I'm meant to do. I do the same thing, and I can't tell. I'm hearing an echo. Is anybody else hearing an echo?
I hear it a little bit from you. I don't know if you can hear it from me.
I think it's from me. I apologize. If you guys can hear this pretty bad, then I'm going to stop it to a bad echo. Okay. All right. Let me stop it and go out and come back in. All right. I'll be right back.
Okay. No problem. It's letting me do it. Okay.
Okay, good. Yay. Well, maybe because, okay, great. All right, then we'll keep going. Okay. All right. So what has been the most challenging moment in your career or in your life that maybe has affected your career? And would you like to share that or help, share a little bit about that, what that made a difference for you?
The most challenging thing that happened, me trying to figure out what I want to do. Because of course I knew that I didn't want to be at a 9 to 5. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but doing what, I had no idea. And it took me years to finally hone in on that one thing, even though I have ideas for different things, as you know.
Yeah.
I can't just stick to one thing all the time. That's just boring to me. So finding something that I really enjoy, like writing, helping people craft their stories and writing their websites and so forth, that was amazing. And I mean, look how long it took me to get to this point. So that was challenging, really knowing what I wanted and how to make a living from that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's something that I think a lot of people, I don't think that you're alone there when it comes to it, because I know even for myself, I mean, even though I've had different creative journeys as an entrepreneur, I feel like I'm finally now doing what I want to do. And I've been doing this for almost 20 years. So you're not alone. It takes a while. And sometimes but I think it's perseverant. I would say that would probably be one of the biggest words I would say about you. You persevere. You don't stop. Trying to evolve and trying to refine it. And I think that is what makes the difference. That to me is a version of success in itself. So
thank you.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So when you think that, now that you feel like, you're doing what you're meant to do and you feel like it's working and you're excited and you're in your element, what do you think is your sweet spot, or, what are the things that you love to do? Of the things that you're doing right now, what do you love to do?
Does it have to do with business or just in general?
Just in general. I mean, no.
I mentioned before, I absolutely love to travel.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot stay in one place for more than 3 months. Like, I feel like I'm in prison. I need to explore. I feel like there's a whole world out there and I need to find out everything I can about it. And I need to meet all of these people and see how they live and all of those things. So definitely traveling and being able to run my business while I travel. That's huge for me. Because as you know, my slogan for myself is because freedom is everything. So anything that I do, it has to involve freedom for me. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Well, and that, and that's what you have to hold true to that. Because I think that's what sets you apart from everyone, from other people who, they're quite happy, staying in their home and working from their computer. And that's fine. You have to do what's right for you. And I think that's the tribe that is attracted to that will find you. It's one of the things. We're doing a Blab tomorrow on my biweekly Blab. And we're talking about polarizing yourself. And I think that's a way of polarizing yourself. So, I think it's wonderful to share that, because that's part of who you are. It's part of your personality. So let it shine.
Definitely.
So what do you think, has there been an experience that you feel like, I really learned from this? Typically there are negative experiences. It's something that you just go, what, that really stunk, or I really had a hard time with that. But I've come through the other side. Because a lot of times, people think, it always looks so rosy on the outside. Yeah. It's not always that way, as we know.
I would say even before I left my job, like leading up to leaving my job, I knew that people would talk. I knew that my family would wonder and say, why is she doing this? I kept hearing, oh, why are you leaving your good government job with good benefits? What are you doing? Are you crazy? So hearing all of those things. And then when I left my job, honestly, I think I felt depressed because I left my job and there was no one to tell me, okay, do this, do that. And that was quite of an adjustment for me, because days will go by and then I look back like, what the hell did I do today?
Yeah.
So trying to get into a routine and get into the groove of things after I left my job, that was difficult. Sometimes I do have challenges with that, but not as much as when I first left. Like it was difficult for me to adjust. I don't know what the heck was going on.
I have the same thing happen. I don't think we've ever talked about this. I'm hearing the echo again. I apologize, guys. But I had the same thing happen when I left corporate, because you feel like that's part of your identity. And now you're trying to figure out your own identity. And it took
Yes.
a while to figure that out. So, yes, yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. So, yeah. Thanks for sharing that with us, because I think a lot of people don't realize, they think it's just, you think it's always rosy, or it's just, you just, everything happens in the right way. And it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it's just, you have to go through some hard times to make some changes. And I have to think that I have to tell you, almost every entrepreneur that I know that are in our space, their families do not. I'm very fortunate that I have a very supportive inner family. My husband and my kids, they really support me, and that helps me. But my exterior family doesn't always. They don't get it. And, so they don't ask. That's okay. I'm okay with that, And that,
you have to be. Just move right along.
Yeah, you just have to just keep going. Right. So, so let me ask you this. I love to read. And I would think with you being an English, major, that you love to read too. I think you do. Yeah. So are there any favorite books, or a book that you would recommend for entrepreneurs, or for, whether it's, to, keep going and something that, to motivate you, or do you like to read business books? What type of books do you like to read? And, would you share any with them? Because I have a blog post that I try to add to it when I interview people. So I'd love to know.
It's funny. I can't finish a book, actually reading. And my goal for this year was to actually hold a book and read one per month. And I'm still stuck on the first book. I mostly do Audible. So I have the books read to me instead of me reading it. I don't know what it is. It doesn't happen. So I'll put in Audible and listen to books. I would say my favorite, which I have not finished, but so far what I've read, I absolutely love it. And I've been doing it in my business, and I continue to do it, is Purple Cow by Seth Godin.
I've heard of that.
It's all about helping you to stand out in your industry. Like in the book, he talked about, imagine driving down the road and you see all of these black cows and brown cows and black and white cows, and you see a purple one, you'll do a double take. So I feel like I try to consistently purple cow my business in more ways than one. I noticed a lot of times I use naming to stand out from the other people in my industry. So I purple cow with names, but there are other things that I do too that makes me different. So I would highly recommend that book.
I'm getting the book right now, and I'm going to stick it in here because I want to make sure I've got it too. Has anybody else read that? If you've read it, I've heard about it though. So I think I'm definitely going to add it to my list. And I have to tell you, I do the same thing. I use Audible. I read. I'll sit there because when I'm doing design work, I can read and learn and listen, and then I put my notes in Evernote. I'm an Evernote queen, so I'll put notes in Evernote, and that sometimes I'll reread books, and that's a great way for me to do it. So I love Evernote, and I think it's and Audible to be able to use it. That's a great one. So I'll add that to my list on my other blog posts.
You have to get it, and I have to finish it.
And you will. I think with being Audible, it's so nice and handy because you can take it anywhere, right? Whether you're running errands, you're traveling, whatever you're doing, you can always put it on your phone and listen to it, right? Yeah. So let me ask you this. We're talking to Miss Iola Yhap. Iola is a copywriter and a brand story coach. And so we appreciate you guys all being here. And we'd love to have your questions. If you've got questions, if you want to pop them in here, or if you want to save them towards the end. I'm about halfway through my questions with Miss Iola. And, so Iola's sharing her journey as an entrepreneur. And I love to share people's journeys so the rest of us can learn and grow from. So one of the things I was going to ask you is, how are you building your brand awareness? Because me, I'm all about branding, and building your brand awareness, sharing your story. What type of outlets are you using, or are you finding that's really working for you to get the message out there to your audience, to find the right people to attract to you?
I try to stick to just 3 social media, even though now I'm trying out a new one. But for the most part, Facebook, LinkedIn, which I'm still learning LinkedIn, but that's one of my focuses, And Periscope is my absolute favorite. I love Periscope, even though I took an hiatus. I love Periscope. And now I'm trying out Anchor. I don't know if you've heard of that new app, but I'm liking it so far.
Somebody else mentioned Anchor to me. Oh, it was on Twitter. What is Anchor?
It's like your own radio show, and you can only speak for 2 minutes. So you go on there and do 2-minute blurb, and people can reply to you with their 2-minute blurb. So you can go on and ask a question. They call it waves. So you're waving instead, like Periscope is scoping, Anchor is waving. So I love it because it's bite sized. I don't have time to be listening to something that's really long all the time. So those 2-minute sessions, I absolutely love it.
I'm going to check it out for sure, because I know I've heard about it a couple times now, and I love to check things out. I'm kind of an early adopter.
Yes, I like it so far.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
It's I think I'm getting a bad echo again. I apologize, guys.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. And maybe it's just me. Okay, good. So when you're, what keeps you motivated? Like when you're, not able to travel when you want to, or you're am I not making a difference? And I know you're in between travel stuff right now, and you want to go, and you're thinking, okay, what's your why? What keeps you going?
I think the thought of being trapped in a job or anything, that keeps me going. I don't want to be in that place. So it's like I'm always thinking about my freedom. And a lot of people say, well, you're traveling now, but when you have a husband, when you have kids, it's going to stop. And in my head, I'm thinking, no, it's not. So I have to make sure that doesn't stop. So that keeps me going.
Yeah. Well, and that's pretty powerful, because that, it's ingrained in who you are. And so that will keep you going. I think anymore today, you don't have to. You can have children and travel.
I see it all the time, and I follow people who do it, so I know that it's possible.
Exactly. So that's your tribe. So that's a great why to have.
Yes.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you, if you would share a couple of tips, whether they're copy tips or brand story tips, something that you share your expertise with our audience so that they could maybe take and implement into their business.
I would say to really discover what your why is, and that's part of your story. Yeah. So if you don't have a brand story yet, try to figure out what that story is. Why does it resonate with your clients? What will motivate your clients to always come to you, or potential clients to always come to you, the way Apple customers rush to them as opposed to a PC, or Starbucks customers rush to them as opposed to any other coffee shop. What is your story? You said 3 of 3?
2 or 3.
Okay. What is your story? Are you telling your story? Because you can have it, but if no one knows it, what's the point? So are you telling your story, and are you telling it consistently? Are you telling it to the right people? So those will be my top 3. Have your story, make sure you tell it, make sure it's the right story, and make sure that you're consistently telling it.
Perfect. And it's something that I tell my clients all the time too. Consistency is my word. I love consistency. And it's not always easy to do, but I think the more you are, the more people relate to you, and they can understand who you are. And I think a lot of people are shy to share their story because they think that their story might be boring, or it's not as impressive as other people's story.
Or they think they don't have a story. A lot of people who I work with one-on-one to craft their story, they're thinking, I have nothing to tell, or I have nothing worth listening to. These people have their lives. Why would they listen to me? Or they think one story is their iconic brand story, but it's not. So as we're interviewing and we're talking, I'm saying, that's not your story. This is your story. And that's when it's like the big aha moment. Yeah. Oh my God. And then lately everybody's been crying on my on our sessions together. It was the first time I was kind of caught off guard because I was working with a guy, not to say anything about guys, but I was in Belgium and I was working with a guy and he just started crying. And since then, everybody's been crying.
Well, then you know that it's gone deep into them, right? That's touching the soul, and that's an important story to tell. I think
it's more of like a therapeutic session, and I feel like the reason a lot of people cry is because they've left that place and they've never gone back to it. Mm-hmm. So me taking them back, or we going back together, it brings up those emotions like, oh my God, this is why I started this business, or this is why I do this. So that's amazing for me and for them.
Yeah. I think that's important to do. I think a lot of people don't take the time to do that. And I think, but when they work with either work with yourself or work with me about trying to help you find their brand story, I think that is something that's so valuable. That's one of the reasons why it's so important to us, because we've taken the time now to figure that out. Our story, our sweet, and our journey is to take the time to figure out what your really is.
Yeah, Darla, you're going in and out a little bit.
I don't know what's going on. I apologize, guys. I've got everything hooked up. I don't know what the deal is. Is it still going in and out?
Just a little bit. I mean, I can hear you fine, but other people are saying there's a bad echo.
Okay. Is it still bad? I can hear it.
Teeny bit.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Julie.
Darla's over. Yes, it is. It's hard work. That's right. Oh God, this is throwing me off. I apologize. Okay, so so here's a question I want to ask Iola. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Let's you travel back. And with the knowledge that you have today, now that you have it, what would you tell your younger
self? Not to worry. Everything will fall into place. Mm-hmm. I'm still telling myself that now. But yeah, I will tell my younger self not to worry. Everything will fall into place because I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted to be free. Whatever freedom meant for me. Freedom for me is traveling. Freedom for someone else is something else. But not to be scared and just to stay the course and keep moving. As we mentioned before, just keep going. Even if things are falling apart, just keep going.
Yeah. I would tell you that biggest, I love that. Great advice. Is not to let fear stop.
Yeah. Darla, Dina is suggesting headphones. Maybe that will work. I'm not sure.
I can find them.
It's okay. I can hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm gonna blame Blab. Other than finding my headset, which I think my daughter said.
I was having pre-Blab issues, and you're having during Blab issues.
I don't have pre-Blab issues. So what's the big project that you're working on? What are you working on?
Right now, I'm working one-on-one with clients to write their websites. So I'm working on a lot of about pages, writing people's about pages, because everybody thinks their about page is about them. So that's one of the most tricky pages for your website. So I'm working with some people on that. And then I'm working on a few sales pages as well. And this weekend, I'm actually going to an event in New York. It's just kind of last minute, but I'm going to go. So I'm excited about that one.
Good. Yeah. I know that you're working on about page. You're working on.
Yes, on your about page. Yes, I am working on your about. Actually, I haven't started yet. Next week.
So
I have 2 to finish up this week. So.
She's busy. She said busy.
Yeah.
And that's
good. Busy.
It is good. It's good to be busy for sure. So, So how can we reach you? You want to put your information in here so that people can...
Sure, you can go to my website, which is my name, IolaYhap.com, and you'll see all the stuff about me, brand story sessions, writing your website, all of those things. Also have a freebie on there called your Iconic Playbook. So you'll have the exact steps that I use to help people to craft their story. So you can grab that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that and for sharing your story with us. And I apologize for the echo. I'm not trying to go out.
No, it's technology. It happens. Don't worry about it.
I can't kind of control this here. I've got my speaker plugged in. So if anybody has any questions, this is a good time to start asking. I think Julie had something and she's already leave. But I saw a question. She said, I feel like I'm figuring out which elements of my story to use to make an interesting story.
Wait, can you read it again?
Oh, where'd it go again?
Sorry.
I feel like I'm still figuring out which element of my story to use to make an interesting story.
Yeah, I think when crafting your story, you have to put everything on paper, not wonder anything. So think of your audience. Think of what happened in your story that resonates with them, that makes sense, that's something that will make them say, oh my God, that's why I work with her, or that's why I buy from her. What is that story? And most of the time, that story is the reason why you started your business in the first place. Mm-hmm. So think in terms of that. And I like to say, do a brain dump. Mm-hmm. And then you take bits and pieces together of what makes sense to your audience, not just to you, mostly to them, because it's all about them, not you.
Right. Exactly. And that's I think a lot of people have to wrap their brain around, that it's not always that it's not about you, it's about them.
Yes.
I think people are getting, but it's still fun. So if you guys have a question from Miss Iola, pop it into the section, and she'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, any questions about your story, whether you have one? If you have a story, let us know. You can type in, I have a story, or if you don't, and let us know why you don't. If you have any questions about putting one together or about writing your copy or anything like that, let us know and I'll do my best to answer.
Yeah, I think copy is very important. And for me being a visual person, I can do visuals all day long. And that's part of who I am. But it's, explaining those visuals. And I think when I talk to other creatives, they're like, I don't know where to start with that. So like, for example, I met last week with a group of artists. And I kept telling them, so, you need to write your story. You need to explain who you are, what's your message, what's your purpose. And even when you're down to why did you create this piece versus that piece? So are there any tips on that you would help other people to explain, whether, whatever the work that they're working on, or possibly, tips on a sales page or their home page, things like that, just, anything like that you could share.
If I were to give one tip in terms of your copy and writing copy for your website, always have your audience in mind. And it's not this big, don't think of it as this big, complicated English major thing. Just imagine sitting down, have your ideal client in your head. So who is your dream client? So imagine sitting down, speaking to that dream client. Exactly how will you speak to them? And that's how you write. So we're not like, it's proper. It doesn't have to be like proper, oh my Lord, you know what I mean? It has to be, how do you speak? If that person was next to you, how would you speak to them? And that's how you write, because that's the language that they understand. So just be yourself. And again, pretend they're next to you and write that way. Like some people, I use darling a lot, like, hey, darling, or something like that. I'll put that in my copy. So if you use a certain word a lot, put that in your copy.
Yeah.
And then when you read it to yourself, it should sound like, okay, I'm having a conversation. If Darla is my ideal client, I'm having a conversation with Darla, and this is how I speak. So
yeah,
that'll be the tip.
That's a great tip. I know when I started blogging and started writing, that really helped me find my voice. And so when I'm writing a blog post or even an email, I write to one person. I write to that, keep that one ideal client in my mind at all times. So I think Dina had a great question here. She said, how do you start? What should I ask myself?
How do you start what? Your story or your copy, Dina? If you can
answer that, Dina.
Tell me more specifically.
Yeah. So Robert is saying you have to be like a good public speaker. Get up and say what you want to say and then sit down. So, okay. So Dina's saying writing your story. How do you start? How do you start to write?
I would say the first question you should ask is your why. Why am I in this business? Why do I have this particular business? Most of the time, that's where your iconic brand story lies. So if it didn't matter, you wouldn't start that business.
Yeah.
So always the first question is why did I start? Like for me, like I mentioned, my slogan for myself is freedom is everything. I started this because I want to be free. I want to travel and work and do whatever the heck I want to do.
Right.
So that's my core brand story. And everything I do, no matter what business I work on, everything has to do with freedom because that's my main word.
Right. And that's a good way to start. Maybe writing down words that describe you, words that are meaningful to you, words that help you find, what your purpose is. And a lot of times what I have learned, I've done, if you haven't read the book or listened to TED Talk by Simon Sinek, because that will help you kind of figure out your why. It's going to take some time. It's not going to happen, like that. Unless you've really honed in on it. I mean, it's taken me months to figure out what my why is. But I think once you really know that, everything flows so much better. So much.
Yeah. And sometimes you do need someone else to bring it out of you. And that's why I started helping people with their story, because almost everybody I've worked with, they'll tell me, oh my gosh, it took years for me to do this, or months, and I don't know where to start. So sometimes you just need that push. Like for me, well, I'm horrible with design. So in my head, I know what I want and I know what looks good to me. But for me to do it, it's not happening. I need help.
Yes.
So sometimes you do need help. You know what it is and you have it in your head, but your issue is how to get it on paper.
Right. And that's true. A lot of times, and it takes some time, so working with someone like Iola to help you bring out your mission, your why, your purpose, will really help you define yourself and define what, so that you have your brand story together, and working with them. So it's coming from you and not from anyone else, because in the end, your brand needs to be who you are, and trying to be other people or trying to emulate is not, people don't know who you are, and therefore they probably won't work with you as well. They're not going to not get to know you and like you and trust you. And so I think that's, it's important. I know even when working with Iola, and she helped me with my iconic speech, because I'm starting to do more speaking again. It's easier when I was speaking in the past, when I was in corporate, because I was speaking about the company. I was speaking about their brand. I wasn't speaking about my brand. So when it becomes a little more personal when it's about you as a solopreneur or an entrepreneur. But I think, the more you dig deep into that, the right people will find you. So having your own iconic brand story is like the perfect purple cow for your business. Because imagine there's so many brand coaches out there. There's so many brand copywriters, and whatever business you're in, there seem like there's 1,000,001 people doing it. No one at all have your story. Exactly.
No one.
Exactly.
So that's like a way for you to stand out.
It is. And that's the way that people can find you. And that, just like, you have friends, you're not going to relate to everybody, and vice versa. It's like, I remember when I was in corporate, it's like I had people that you hung out with all the time, and other people I never really, I would say hi to, and that was it, because we didn't have a lot in common. So I probably would never really want to work with them. So you have to find the right person that you feel like you're in alignment with, and dig deep in it too, right?
Yes, most definitely. Because the last thing you want to do is working with someone you don't enjoy working with. It's just torture for you and them.
Yes. Yeah. So stop that when you can, as soon as you can. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, so if no one has any questions here, then I think we're probably going to wrap up our chat. Never be afraid to sack a client. Yes, this is true. This is true. This is true. Because I think that I think too, the more true and honest with yourself, the more you know who you are and know what your purpose is. Iola's is about freedom. Mine is about meaning, being meaningful. So I would say meaningful is one of my words. And so, that and being authentic and being meaningful, that kind of the same thing. That's really important to me. And so that's what I try to live my life by. And so I try to, because of that, I'm probably going to draw people that are more in that, that want the same kind of thing. I was just listening to some other people that are branding people, and, they have a different personality. So they're going to attract a different tribe. And that's good, because we all want, you want to be able to attract the tribe that you want to work with, because that's what's going to make the difference for you. So yes.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah. So, so thanks for sharing, Louis. We appreciate that. And, thanks to everybody for being here. If no one has any more questions, then I'm going to let Miss Iola go, because I know she's busy. She's got to write a lot of copy.
Yes, and thank you so much. I don't know why my Twitter is showing up. I'll put my Twitter. It's my first name _ my last name. I don't know why it's showing up as this other thing. That's why you can't see my picture. But in case anybody wants to follow me, that's the Twitter that I'm active on, Iola _Yhap. And again, if you have any questions or anything, you can just go to my website, which is my name.
Yes, and Iola is. I'm going to be putting all this into a blog post over at darlakirchner.com, and you can come and catch the replay for anybody who's joined us later. That's something for sure. You can do that. I'm going to go ahead and put this in here, because I do have other interviews that I've done with other entrepreneurs, and I know that I'm always open to talking to new people too, and to share their brand story. And so you'll be able to catch the replay, and all the notes are all going to be in Iola's blog post, and that'll probably come up here in the next couple of weeks. So I think I've got another one scheduled for next week, and then I'll have yours probably the following week. So that'll be good. So you can catch that, and definitely check out what Iola is doing. Follow her on her social media. I know she's really big on Facebook, right?
Yes.
And Periscope. Yeah. You can catch her there.
And everything is at Iola Yhap. Twitter is the only one that's under _.
Yeah. And if you have any other questions with branding or anything, then please feel free to reach out to us. That's part of the reason why I do these blabs is to help people, and to give good feedback, and to share other people's expertise. And I think Iola has really found her niche. She's great at what she does, and I see amazing things for you in your future. So thanks for joining me here today, honey.
Thank you so much for having me. You're amazing. I love you.
Ditto.
I really appreciate this. And thank you, everybody, for spending the time and asking questions and interacting. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys being here. You guys have a great day. And if you want to come over Friday, I'm going to be on Friday at 10:30 talking to my friend Emily, and we're talking about polarizing your brand and why that's important. So it's kind of piggybacking on what we're talking about here today. So good feedback. So thanks so much for joining, and thanks for booking your seat. So being really defining your niche and just holding there, right? So Iola, honey, thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and your journey and your story and your tips.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to ask you to stop recording it, because I can't.